A cordial salutation to all viewers of this broadcast. Today's episode concerns a man whose wife made a full disclosure of her infidelity, disclosing every detail at the doorstep. This is the account of what transpired subsequently. The full account, with an update, is presented below. The wife had an extramarital affair 2 months ago. She went out drinking with her friends, a rare occurrence despite the husband's repeated requests for her to remain at home with him and their 2-year-old son. At the bar, the wife was purchased several drinks by a male acquaintance, resulting in her becoming inebriated. This was a typical occurrence for her. Her friend had a bad feeling about this and tried to bring her home, but she insisted that she would take a cab, and her friends eventually left her alone with the man. As it turned out, she went home with him the whole time. I was blowing up her phone with dozens of texts and calls, and I kept asking her friends where she was, but I got no answer from them. I had never been so worried in my life. Then she came back at 3 a.m. in a state. She was overcome with emotion and confessed to everything, right at the doorstep. She had not yet learned the man's name, but she was sufficiently motivated to visit his house and engage in sexual intercourse with him. She stated that, once her emotions had subsided, she experienced a profound sense of regret and distress. She took a cab home. I was enraged, but I refrained from expressing my feelings or taking any action. I was aware that my actions might result in legal consequences. I did. I informed her to take a shower and retire for the night. I then removed my wedding ring and departed from the premises. I proceeded to drive around for a while, screaming in the car. Meanwhile, she was contacting me via phone and text messages, expressing her apologies and pleading with me to return. I returned a few hours later and found her awake, still in a state of distress and muttering. I inquired about our future course of action, and she promised to do anything to regain my trust. She promised to do anything and everything to regain my trust. I was initially inclined to divorce her immediately, but I loved my wife and felt a stronger connection with her than with anyone else. I had not yet forgiven her, but I gave her a chance to try to win back my trust. She was overjoyed but still in tears, saying that she did not deserve my forgiveness, but would make the most of the opportunity to regain it. As it turns out, she has been true to her word. She no longer goes out to bars without me, and has given me complete access to all of her personal belongings. She only drinks when I am present. I am present, and she has been exerting herself to the utmost to satisfy me. She is cooking my favorite meals, buying me gifts continuously, apologizing, doing more housework to give me more free time, even writing poems asking for my forgiveness. She has even confessed what she did to her friends, who have been avoiding her more and more out of disgust for what she did to me. She has also told her parents what she did on her own accord and explained that she was raised better than that, and is trying to. She did not attempt to shift the blame for the infidelity onto Neo. She did not attempt to justify or rationalize her actions, as she was aware that there was nothing wrong with the nature of our relationship. She accepted full responsibility for her actions, and stated that she was willing to do whatever was necessary to save our marriage. She still experiences feelings of remorse, as evidenced by her occasional crying episodes. These occur at various times, including before bed, during showers, and sometimes while cooking. This appears to be an optimal course of action for a couple who has experienced infidelity. Despite her apparent success in implementing this approach, I find it difficult to erase the image of her attempting to engage in intimate physical contact with me. I am reminded of her and the other man's actions on that fateful night, which resulted in her being pushed away. Since that incident, we have not engaged in any physical contact that could be considered affectionate. She has attempted to kiss me on several occasions, but I have consistently avoided physical contact. I have been residing in the guest bedroom, while she has been pleading with me to return to her. She comes to me and cries herself to sleep every night. I am aware that she is genuinely sorry for her actions. These are not the tears of a person who is merely attempting to manipulate me. She has confessed to me, changed her habits, and done everything I have asked of her. She sometimes asks me if I have forgiven her, and I always say that I have not yet forgiven her. I mentioned to her a few weeks ago that I was considering divorcing, and she broke down, saying that she would never love another man. Another man will never be permitted to raise our child. This is something she holds very close to her heart. Losing me would shatter her world. I believe that, of all those who have ever cheated and wish to regain their partner's trust, my wife has done the best. Despite this, I find it difficult to forget. I wake up in the morning, and the first thing I think of is her in his bed with him. This has caused me to have trouble sleeping. The mere thought of them having sex keeps me awake at night. I feel nauseous and numb all the time. The singular thought of another man having sex with my wife is stuck in my mind all day. I don't want this to keep happening, but I can't find any way to strike it from my mind. Every so often, I feel like unleashing all my anger on her, calling her all the names in the book, and telling her I hate her. Lately, I find myself on a local pier, just staring out into the ocean for hours. At times, I visit the location with the intention of temporarily disengaging from thoughts of my wife's infidelity. However, upon returning home, the distressing emotions resurface. I am uncertain if I still love my wife. At times, I experience such intense hatred for her that I feel physically ill, knowing that I married her. Conversely, I also see her as she was before the infidelity, and in those moments, I feel capable of loving her again. However, these feelings do not last long. I feel like I am the bad guy for wanting to forgive her. A divorce would be the appropriate course of action, as she has been conducting herself in an exemplary manner since the infidelity. This is the typical response of most people, but I am unable to forgive her. I am unable to stop thinking about her with the other man. I am aware that my continued thoughts about them will not lead to a successful marriage. Our anniversary is in 9 days, and this is causing me to relive memories of our relationship, including our wedding, the birth of our son, and our trips together. These happy memories are now overshadowed by the pain of the betrayal. Furthermore, my throat is constricted by the thought of them. We have been together since high school, and we were fully committed and faithful. I am unable to comprehend how she could do this to me, how she could make a series of poor decisions one after the other to end up cheating. My mouth feels dry whenever I think of how that night must have gone, how she must have kissed him, walked into his home, and into his bedroom, laid down on his bed, and taken off her clothes. I often feel like killing myself, killing her, or I fantasize about cheating on my wife to make things even. I have even considered hitting her repeatedly, but I would never do that. I have never laid a finger on my wife. I do not hurt people. I have never had violent or angry thoughts like this before. My wife's adultery has affected me more than I could have imagined. It has made me feel like a different person. I feel hollow all the time. I am here to ask if there is any way I can bring myself to forgive her. I am unsure whether to forgive her or to divorce her and move on. I am seeking a woman who will not cheat on me. I want my son to grow up with the belief that cheating is totally unacceptable. I feel that if I stay with my wife, my son will learn that it is okay to forgive cheating. I do not want him to ever stay with a woman who has cheated on him. I am living each day in the hope that I might have an epiphany that I can truly forgive. It seems implausible that she and I could ever love each other again. I am contemplating therapy for my own sake, but I am reluctant to engage in marriage counseling, as I fear that the counselor will attempt to portray me as the primary cause of my wife's infidelity. I am unwilling to tolerate such an accusation. I am at a loss as to how to proceed. I am exhausted by the emotional distress I am experiencing. There is a popular saying that there are 2 types of people in the world. The first type of person is able to forgive infidelity, whereas the second type is not. You fall into the latter category, my friend. My recommendation would be to consider a temporary separation, which may allow you to make a more informed decision. Should you choose to pursue this course of action, it would be advisable to make a list of what is and is not acceptable during the separation. It is important to note that, while she did confess immediately and seemed sorry, it may not be possible to regain trust in the long term. Ultimately, her actions will not alter the situation. The decision to trust her again is entirely yours. If you cannot move on from this, divorce is an option. Attempting to justify her actions by suggesting that 2 wrongs make a right would be illogical. It would effectively negate the possibility of salvaging your marriage. It is difficult to envisage any further actions your wife could take to make amends. If you are unable to forgive her, that is your prerogative. It is recommended that you seek therapy if there is even the slightest possibility of reconciling with your wife. It seems that you are already forming opinions about her and your relationship with her. It is important to maintain an open mind and to seek the guidance of a therapist. If your therapist attempts to redirect the focus of your therapy back to your wife, it is advised that you terminate this session. If your therapist attempts to make you feel guilty about your feelings, it is advised that you leave the session. It is recommended that you seek personal therapy to help you process your feelings, regardless of whether you decide to continue the marriage or not. The decision to continue the marriage or not is a complex one, with the potential to affect people in different ways. It is therefore important not to be overly critical of oneself for being so distressed by the discovery of infidelity, particularly given the length of the relationship in question. I recall being similarly upset when I discovered that my former partner had been contacting other women during our brief period together. It is therefore understandable that you may feel similarly. It is also important to recognize that it is not uncommon for individuals to experience difficulties in continuing a marriage after infidelity has occurred. It is therefore important to be kind to oneself if one finds that one is unable or unwilling to continue the marriage. It is advisable to allow yourself a period of time to recover and heal. It would be beneficial for her to stay with her parents for at least a month, or even 3 months if necessary. Once she has been removed from the house for at least 1 to 2 weeks, you can then begin to consider counseling or divorce. It is recommended that you explore both options to gain a full understanding of your available options. It is important to consider what you want out of life, and to understand that your wife made several decisions that day that resulted in her infidelity. All she has is her actions. It has been 2 months since the infidelity occurred, which does not excuse her actions. Instead, it serves to exacerbate the situation. It is important to remember that her actions were not motivated by love, but rather by guilt. It is crucial to recognize that this is not your fault. You are not a bad person. You have been betrayed, and the pain is real. I have come to understand my next steps. I will speak with her about the possibility of making things right. I will consider all options, including reconciliation or divorce. Furthermore, I intend to request that she divulge the full truth about this individual. I find it peculiar that she is able to recall that he is divorced at age 33, yet is unable to remember his name. This is a poor idea, as it is indicative of my vengeful side. I do not intend to attempt to make amends. Instead, I will request that she divulge the full truth and then suggest that we divorce. I am certain that she will suffer as a result of her actions. One user posited that I would suffer most if I were to leave her. In her own words, she stated that it would destroy her. However, I am not divorcing her merely to spite her. I am doing so because I do not wish to remain in a ruined marriage. I am doing so because she has betrayed me, and I am unwilling to be a doormat and excuse her behavior. I am unlikely to change my mind. I have considered the matter at length, having read the responses and personal messages that have been posted. I have received responses and personal messages from various individuals, one of which stated that I deserved to be cheated on. I also had a phone conversation with another Redditor, who was kind enough to lend me his time. I confronted her for the full truth yesterday. She repeated the same old story, claiming that she was crying and apologizing and begging for forgiveness. She stated that she did not remember his name, since it did not come up after their introduction. She further explained that she kept talking to him because he was practically drooling over her beauty. She took pity on him. My wife attempted to console him, which resulted in her ego being stroked. She then proceeded to betray him. Her phone was on silent throughout the entire incident, which was highly unusual. However, she wanted to socialize with her friends and was distressed. I believe that her husband's calls were considered disruptions that evening. The fact that she gave him what I interpreted as a pity fuck made me lose the little respect I had left for her. She swore on her life that she would do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to regain my trust and save our marriage. I asked her what length she was willing to go to, and she said that if what it takes is her having sex with another woman right in front of her, then she would go through with it. If it took a half-open relationship on my end, then she would do it. If it took her admitting to our son, when he's an adult what she did, she would. She stated that she would do whatever it takes. I was taken aback and touched by this admission. I recognized that my wife was genuinely remorseful and loved me deeply. I observed that her apology, her efforts, and everything she had done were genuine. I believed that she would certainly erase her crime if she could. I loved my wife. Then, I recalled that many people go through life without ever cheating on their partner. There are women who would never put themselves in such a situation. It is possible that I could have been unfaithful for the 12 years of our relationship. Despite having several opportunities to do so, I have not strayed. I believe that I deserve a woman who will not betray me. My wife did all she could to try and atone for her infidelity. However, once something is broken, it cannot be restored to what it once was. I would rather be unmarried than stay in a once broken, repaired marriage. Even if I took her back, the marriage would never be the same again. I am not willing to endure the same circumstances again. I am unwilling to live in a state of constant paranoia, wondering if my wife is at the grocery store, if she is actually working late, or if she is hurting me again. I have informed my wife of my desire for a divorce, and she has rejected me. Despite my attempts to explain the situation, she has persisted in pleading with me. She has even gone so far as to beg at my feet, saying that she would rather die than be without me. I have informed her that her actions have consequences, and that I will never forgive her. I informed her that I would not forgive her for cheating. She continued to cry, and I told her to move back in with her parents for the time being. I said that I would take care of our son, but she was allowed to visit him at any time. She kept crying and begging, but I was firm on this point. She is moving out in 2 days. I plan to meet with a divorce lawyer soon and get the ball rolling. I am unsure if time away from my wife will change my feelings, but I strongly doubt it. She made her bed. It seems that the only remaining option is to divorce her and attempt to rebuild my life. I am aware that it is still too early to consider these matters, but I have already decided to remain on civil terms with my wife when we are divorced. I am certain that I will never enter into any form of reconciliation with her, but I will be polite in our future interactions solely for the sake of my son. I will do this for the next few months that we are apart. I will endeavor to make the most of this period. I will focus my attention first and foremost on my son. I will periodically check in with my wife's family to ascertain how she is doing. I will not engage in social activities with new women until I am divorced. I will spend more time at the gym to relieve my anger. I will utilize my free time to pursue my hobbies, such as playing the piano and painting, as a means of expressing my emotions. I will not update my social media accounts. To all those who offered advice and assistance in helping me make the right decision, I am confident in my actions, and I pray that things will work out for me. Of all the different scenarios for infidelity, this is one of those that has the potential for reconciliation. There was full and immediate disclosure, no trickle truth, and an overwhelming amount of remorse. However, the brazen, in plain sight act is a difficult pill to swallow. I understand that today you feel angry and hurt. It is understandable that you may feel hurt, betrayed, and angry. However, it is important to consider the long-term implications of your actions. It is possible that you may wish to seek the advice of a counselor before consulting a divorce lawyer. It is important to remember that love is unconditional, and this applies to spouses and children. It is therefore advisable to consider your actions with empathy and compassion, rather than compulsion or the need to retaliate. Thank you for watching this video to the end. If you enjoyed it, please consider sharing it and subscribing to my channel. Have a good day.